Alrighty, everybody, we're gonna discuss the Twilio announces the Authy breach today. And so a couple days ago, I think it was July 1st or 2nd, Twilio announced that their um, Authy branch was had a data breach, and there was a leak of approximately 33 million phone numbers. And so here's some of the credits from the articles I read. I reached out to the Authy site, the Twilio site. I went to NIST. I read Cyber News, Daily Coin about cryptocurrencies, Wikipedia about shiny hunters, Bleeping Computer, Forbes, Tech Radar, Twilio, and Twilio. So these are some really good articles, and they are in the slides. All right, so the summary is, like I said, early July. A few days ago, the parent company of Authy announced that there was a data breach, and it resulted from an unsecured API endpoint. The breach allowed a hacking group called Shiny Hunters to acquire 33 million Authy user phone numbers. While user accounts were not directly compromised, the leaked phone numbers could enable threat actors to conduct phishing and SIM swapping attacks to gain access to sensitive information such as passwords. Twilio claims to have addressed the vulnerability and has released security updates for Authy, the Android and iOS apps. Twilio recommends that all users update their apps, disable the multi-device function, and be vigilant against future phishing attacks. All right, so here's some of the terms that were in the articles that I read. So API. Twilio confirmed that threat actors exploited an unauthenticated API endpoint to obtain Authy user phone numbers. Okay, an unauthenticated endpoint means that the API could have been accessed without any form of authentication, such as password or security token. The attackers were able to verify if a phone number was associated with an Authy account by feeding large lists of phone numbers into the unsecured API. Although Twilio asserts that no other sensitive information, such as passwords or access to the Twilio systems, was compromised, this attack highlights the potential security risks of unsecured APIs. Also, points out about how important it is to make sure that systems are configured. Although they haven't said anything yet, I am going to assume that this may have been a human error kind of problem. Okay, so Authy is a free mobile app that provides two-factor authentication for online accounts. It is owned by Twilio and is used and recommended by many crypto companies for their wallets, etc. And then so Twilio is on Android and iOS. It is not on Windows or Linux anymore, I believe. So cryptocurrency, what is cryptocurrency? This is a digital currency in which transactions are verified and records maintained by a decentralized system using cryptography rather than by a centralized authority, which is funny because crypto exchange says something that's a little different than that. All right, so anyway, so digital currency, you've heard of Bitcoin, and I can't think of any other ones right now, but that's the one everybody knows. Crypto exchange, this is like just your traditional stock and commodities exchanges. Cryptocurrency exchanges are there kind of platforms that help trade in different kinds of cryptocurrencies. You might recognize the company FTX. This was a centralized crypto exchange. This is the one that became famous from the downfall of the CEO, Sam Bankman, who is now in prison for defrauding his investors. Phishing, all right, so they're saying that this was a vishing attack, which is a form of phishing. And so this is a technique for attempting to acquire sensitive data, such as bank account numbers, through fraudulent solicitation in email or on a website in which the perpetrator masquerades as a legitimate business or a reputable person. And so this is part of social engineering, and everybody is susceptible to it. So Shiny Hunters, this is a black hat criminal group. We've talked about this group before. They're responsible for the Ticketmaster breach. They basically sell on the dark web, so their motivations are mostly financial. And they appeared on the dark web probably around 2020. And they, like I said, they have some famous attacks like Ticketmaster, and I think there was a Microsoft one as well. Spear phishing, this is just a highly targeted attack. This is specifically targeting a particular person or a title of a role. It's like sending a phishing email to a CFO about finance stuff and trying to convince them to put in information or pay something off. So, who is Twilio, or what is Twilio? The short answer is from their website, and it says Twilio is a customer engagement platform used by over 300,000 global enterprises and digital disruptors, plus more than 10 million developers worldwide, to build unique, personalized experiences for their customers. For well over a decade, they've been known for democratizing channels like voice, text, chat, video, and email through APIs, giving organizations the tools to build meaningful interactions with customers on the channels they prefer. Okay, and then it's important to recognize that Twilio is saying that their systems were not affected by this breach. It was the Authy system or site that was breached. Unauthenticated endpoint, this is basically an endpoint where an attacker gained access without having to put in any form of authentication. So they didn't have to, maybe even didn't have to use their password, username, password, or a key or a token or anything like that. It was unauthenticated. All right, and so that becomes a little bit more important because this particular situation implies several possibilities. So here's some ways this could happen. So it could have been publicly accessible data exposure. An unauthenticated endpoint may provide access to data that should not be publicly available. This could be due to misconfiguration or oversight where the sensitive data was inadvertently exposed. Vulnerabilities in the endpoint, this could be because of that. The attacker may have exploited vulnerabilities in the endpoint, and like injection flaws like SQL injection, buffer overflows, that kind of stuff. It could have been part of a business logic flaw. This is the business logic of the application the attacker can exploit via the unauthenticated endpoint to gain unauthorized access to data functions. And then inadequate input validation. So if the unauthenticated endpoint does not properly validate or sanitize user input, it could be vulnerable to various attacks such as cross-site scripting, also known as XSS, cross-site request forgery, known as CSRF, or command injection. Okay, so we're still going through with the unauthenticated endpoint. A breach via an unauthenticated endpoint is particularly concerning because such endpoints are accessible to anyone and should be carefully designed and monitored to avoid exposing sensitive data. To prevent such breaches, companies should do some of these. Ensure proper configuration, implement security best practices, provide regular security audits, use access controls, which means restrict access to sensitive data and functionality. I'm surprised there isn't anything about encryption on this. Monitoring and alerts. Implement monitoring and alerting systems to detect and respond to suspicious activities. All right, so now we're going to jump to a previous presentation, and this goes to Verus, the vocabulary for event recording and incident sharing. Okay, and then so this is a set of metrics designed to provide a common language for describing security incidents. So Verus, if you recall the DBIR from Verizon for 2024, there is information about Verus, which is the vocabulary for event recording and incident sharing. All right, and so Verus actors. Again, this is from the original DBIR for 2024, and it is, you read it there and heard it here. Don't skip this section. So if you have not read the DBIR for 2024, you really should, because it talks about various actors, and internal actors is one of that. And so we're going back to making a big assumption that the unauthenticated endpoint may have been because of human error. So right now I am guessing or assuming that that unauthenticated endpoint was just not configured correctly. So if you go to the DBIR for 2024 from Verizon, it says that internal actors contribute to 35% of breaches. And so internal threats, and this one is specifically talking about internal threats, and insiders are trusted and privileged, and they are part of your vulnerabilities. And so phishing is voice phishing. So this is where a person may make a phone call to trick and talk to someone on the phone and trick them into providing sensitive information like login credentials, credit card numbers, and stuff like that. And so, what are some of the recommendations to help prevent or recover from an incident very similar to this Authy breach? So Twilio and Authy made some recommendations. They advised that all users immediately do the following steps to prevent potential privacy breaches and financial losses. Update their security settings, ensure that the Authy app and other security applications are updated to the latest versions. Disable multi-device functionality. This prevents unauthorized access to 2FA tokens, even if the phone number is compromised. Be vigilant against phishing attacks. Phone number leaks often lead to phishing attacks where criminals pose as trusted entities to scam their victims, usually. Users should be vigilant of any unsolicited messages or calls requesting personal information or login credentials. So basically what they're saying is they're saying, hey, someone might try to call you now, or they might try to text you and try to get some information from you. So if you have an Authy account, and if it's associated with your cryptocurrencies, be very, very careful. Okay, and then so recommendations overall is awareness and social engineering training. Educate people on the various forms of phishing and other types of social media attacks and social engineering, and share these types of breaches with them on a regular basis so they can learn from others' experiences. Regular audits and reviews. Again, I'm jumping to the conclusion that there was a possibility that this was an internal error by a team member on the configuration of a system, and I am saying that you should have regular audits and reviews on your systems and on your employees and your policies and your processes. And role-based access and least privilege. Those are important. So if someone does infiltrate your network, hopefully that they are stuck in a small area or zone and they can't get to more important information, and you can catch it before it's too late. And the other thing I don't see, and I don't think I've seen in quite a few of these, is encrypt your data. All right. And then so that was the Twilio announced Authy breach. Remember, they leaked 33 million phone numbers, 8675309. If you know what that is, that hopefully that was not one of the 33 million phone numbers. Thank you for listening. See you later. Bye-bye.